back. Inflation is at an all-time high right now, and Joe Biden's disapproval ratings are there as well. According to a poll from Hart Research, his approval is just at 42%. 54% of America thinks he's not doing so hot, and he continues to blame high inflation on a growing economy. Take a listen.
And lastly, if you take a look at what economy is growing, the United States, it's growing. It has problems, mainly because of COVID and supply chain, but it's growing.
It's growing. He keeps whispering for some reason. Who thinks that's a good idea? Also, important to note, the world food prices hit a 10-year high in October, so everything's going just right. Of course, or not. Let's welcome in our Money Huddle participants today, Heather Zumarraga and Seth Denson. Heather and Seth, great to see you both.
Hey, John.
Hey, John.
All right, so food prices at a 10-year high. And, of course, this is the holiday season. Folks are really starting to feel this now, Heather. Is there any sign that the inflation and the rising food prices, is this going to stop anytime soon?
No, unfortunately, it's not. I feel like whispering for dramatic effect, and then I think it makes a much bigger statement if I whisper. So I hope you can hear me if I do, because consumer prices, like you said, increasing at the fastest rate in 13 years. Economists look at something called the core PCE, and it's really the broad measure of inflation at a 30-year high, John. And I don't think this is going away anytime soon. When you look at the reason that we saw a big red wave, it's not just education and safety. It's really because the economy was a big concern for voters as inflation really persists. For everyday Americans, the White House will claim it's a high-class problem. But how is buying food, groceries, and gas, getting gas and filling up your car, high-class problems? I don't think so. The rich really aren't impacted by meat and poultry rising by 20%, but everyday middle-class Americans are.
There's just so many weird things going on right now, Seth. I mean, you hear about this labor shortage, you've got the supply chain issues, and Joe Biden can just whisper in and say, the USA. I mean, so weird. I'm not doing it justice. I'm not making it weird enough. But, I guess maybe on paper the economy is growing, but what are we supposed to do with all these disparate economic indicators?
Yeah, I think, listen, we need to define growing. It's not growing, it's rebounding. That's the key here. The economy was down as a result of the lockdowns and shutdowns. It's just starting to come back. The problem is it's not coming back as fast as most economists expected that it would, or even the administration. If you look at GDP growth in the second quarter, it was up 6.5%, a little bit more than that. But in the third quarter, only up 2%. And why is that? Because we continue to have lockdowns. We continue to lay people off because of vaccine mandates. The key to getting the economy, global economy, back up and running is labor. That's the key. Yes, there have been droughts in South America and Asia and even some in California. Food prices, 25% of U.S. food is actually produced in California. We've had droughts. Those are normal things that are going to happen. But when you compound those with labor shortages, that's where we have a problem. Until we get people back to work, it's not going to get better.
And so, I mean, you got to get people, these businesses, to pay people to get back to work. They got to raise their wages here. But that's not going to happen, Heather, if these tax increases kick in. I mean, we're kind of faced with this, Sophie's choice here. They're going to raise taxes on businesses, but businesses want to hire people. They want to raise the wages to do so, but they can if the taxes are going up.
No, they really can. And that's why small businesses that did survive through the pandemic now, with higher taxes, higher wages, as well as labor shortages, it may not be COVID that ultimately wipes out most of the small businesses. It might be what's going on in Washington right now. One good thing that the Federal Reserve just did, they announced that they're going to start tapering their bond buying purchases every month, which I have been hoping they would do for about a year now, because the economy is not in rescue mode. They're buying what's called mortgage-backed securities, which we were doing after 2008 as well to prop up the economy. And if you look at the price of housing, I don't think it's in any jeopardy of needing to be propped up.
Right.
And so I am happy that the Federal Reserve is reducing their bond buying purchases, but they still are keeping and holding interest rates near zero, which is also exacerbating the inflation story.
I just wrote that down, Heather, because I don't think we've ever said that in the history of these interviews. One good thing the Federal Reserve just did. I'm going to make a note of that. And Seth, I wanted to ask you about this as well, too. I just read this story. And I'm always kind of amazed by the modern world of finance. And we're reading that story about Kevin Durant endorsing a special purpose acquisition firm, buying companies or going public. What is this all about? Please explain this to me. What's going on here?
Well, listen, I don't specifically understand what's going on with Kevin Durant. I haven't been up to date with that. First time I really heard about it was when we were getting ready to go live here. So I don't know that I can comment specifically on what he's doing. But there is a lot. Listen, what Heather was talking about, all of this money that's out there, you got to put it where it's going to work best for you. And so a lot of people are creating these funds where they're going and buying some of these distressed businesses, and they're trying to prop them up themselves, and then they're trying to buy reduced assets and inflate them later. I don't know if that's what Kevin Durant is doing, but it's what a lot of people are doing right now in the economy.
Yeah, well, I just saw this line in here. These are shell firms that use money raised through an IPO to merge with a private company and take it public. Whoosh. Good for Kevin Durant. I'm going to read up on it and find out more about it. Great to see you both. Seth and Heather, thanks so much, guys.
Thanks, John.